Missile command. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm going no green screen for the foreseeable future. I can't get my lighting situation figured out, but hopefully it won't be too big of a deal. Just shrink this camera just a little bit. I don't want it to get in anybody's way. Alright. Just letting Game Maker Studio load up here. Sometimes it seems to want to freeze the first time I open it, but I just close it and open it again, and then it seems to be fine. Okay. So let's take a quick look at the video of Missile Command. So, looks like there's a couple different versions. There's the original Atari version, but this looks like it's from the arcade version. Let's see what this looks like. So there's a little flashing intro screen. It says Missile Command. You can know that. Got text that says Defend Cities. At the top, so we also have press Start. Scrolling on the bottom. Okay. So then you have 3 objects that can shoot. Seemingly independently. It's interesting. So I wonder how it prioritizes which one of your missile bases fires. It looks like it says well, I guess I wouldn't have to, you don't have to make the game decide. I guess you could let yourself decide. You could make it like if you push 1, then you'll fire from the first missile base, 2, fire from the second, 3 from the third. Okay. First. We'll need a cursor. Okay. And there's a score function at the top. We'll need some cities. Alright, so let's hop back into Game Maker and try to piece this together just a little bit. So there's a few different ways we can do this. But let's just approach it like this for now, and we can go back and change it later. Object space 1, duplicate it, 2, 3. And these can really look however you want. It's kind of inevitable that they're going to end up looking like giant middle fingers at the bottom of your screen, but I guess you wouldn't even have to make one of these missile launchers if you didn't want to, because it seems like in the actual game, it's just shooting from a hole, right? Like if you look, it's just coming from a crater in the ground, right? It just comes from a crater and then it fills out those sprites. So let's see, how many missiles do you have? Looks like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you have 10. Okay, so if you have 10 missiles on each side, there's a few ways we can do that. It might be easiest to just start your sprite with 10 missiles on it, and then make 10 frames, and then just work your way down. I think that's what I'll do. So if we're doing it this way, it looks something like this. And there's really all kinds of different ways you could set this up. You're not bound by any means to do it this specific way. It just sort of looks like, you know, like the way you set up pool balls, more or less. It is important, though, to, if you're going to be making an animation, you want to make sure that your first frame is correct before you start copying and then reducing it as you go. So what I'm doing here is giving myself a little bit more room to work with, so that way I can make these look more missly. Hey Diver, how's it going? Thanks for following, my friend. Here. Just make it look a little bit like this. I mean, I know it looks like I'm making a middle finger launcher simulator here, but that's more of an offline stream thing, I think. Then I need just ever so slightly more room here, but I think I can make this work. I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to make another game. How about yourself? What have you been up to? Now, when you say base Twitch, what does that mean? Because the answer is probably, since I don't even know what would be different when you say base Twitch. Are you talking about like graphics and stuff like that? Oh, I hope not. Yep, game dev on a Sunday. And hopefully game dev on a Monday, on a Tuesday, and a Wednesday, and a Thursday, and a Friday, Saturday, etc. No, I don't think I'm paying for that. I've got Amazon Prime. Yeah, what I'm using is Streamlabs, I think, and Stream Elements. I have Streamlabs set up for like the following, things like that. And then I got the Stream Elements thing for like the chat mod and things like that. Yeah, maybe I was thinking of the turbo thing. Is that still a thing, Twitch Turbo? I seem to remember having that at some point. I don't know if it was useful. The way it works, I can show you really quickly. So like for Streamlabs, I don't think this is going to show anything. I don't want you guys to see, but it lets you set up all these different alert boxes, widgets, what have you. And then it integrates really easily with OBS. And you just customize it however you want. And the Stream Elements thing is kind of the same thing. But I just got it because it has all the cool little things like, let's see. You know, all those little silly interactive chat things. All right, those look like some kind of missile. Should work. Might need to differentiate the color just a little bit, but we can probably just make this work. I think this will be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 10 copies of this. I keep winning those. I swear it's not rigged. The only thing I have rigged is the roulette. It's really hard to win roulette. You're very welcome. If you need any help getting it working, let me know. It took me a couple tries to get things like the browser capture correct. So what we're doing here is we're just making it so every frame there's going to be one less missile, right? So that way it'll look like it's just kind of an easy way to keep track of your ammo. The tricky part for this game will be the way it draws lines, but I believe there's a function where you can draw a line in GameMaker from where an object started to where it currently is. So I'm gonna have to experiment with that, see if I can get that to work correctly. And I guess technically I need 11 so I can have a 0 frame. Those are my missiles. Alright, let's take another look at this game. So we've got some little cities here. It looks like I coded a few more missiles than back in the day. You could always stretch an object's width to the distance between the two. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like it's really old school looking. But I guess they do it to make it like a bullet trail kind of thing. It's kind of quirky. But, I mean, considering that this was made almost 40 years ago, you gotta respect these guys. I can't imagine what they had to code to make this look the way it does. Guarantee it was not easy, though. Anytime one of these songs pops up with lyrics, I've got to skip it. Too easily distracted. Yeah. Alright, let's draw some little city sprites. There's all kinds of different ways we could do this, but I'm just going to get a square. And this is where it gets extra Bob Ross right here. You just sort of, you just play around with it. Wherever you think a little city should be, a little skyscraper or anything. Why not? We can always go back and change this too. I do kind of like to do little effects like this. Like when you're doing sprite art, I'm definitely not an artist, but I've just been slowly picking up on some things, some little tricks that they will do to create the illusion of depth here. And one of those is you just decide where you want the light to be coming from, and wherever the light's coming from on the opposite side, make it dark, and then you go to the other one and you can just put a little light line Zoom out just a little bit so this is easier to see. I was holding shift, whoops. Then you can go to this other side and it can give you kind of the illusion of depth for the most part. Nothing too fancy, you know. Is that pronounced 8-bit? 8-bits pixel art tutorials? I probably should. Probably should do that. But the reality for me is right now, I'm thankful that I can even make anything remotely resembling a video game. Yeah, that. There's a bunch on YouTube. Lead artist for a game called Dungeon League. Dungeon League. What, I feel like I'm making like a corporate profit presentation right here. I'm having flashbacks from the corporate world. As you can see, back when we were blue, we were struggling somewhat, so then we switched to light blue, and profits immediately recovered. Now we're in the gray. Okay, so now we have a city object. Let's go to our room. I'm just going to name this to Rune Play. And as always, I like to have a little title screen room. And I think they just use a black background in this game. Yeah, so I can just go to the background, make that straight black. See how big these cities look. If you notice here, this happens all the time. If you can't figure out why your object won't drag on, it's because you're still on the background layer. Just make sure you have instance selected. Defend the cities. How many cities do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So we have 6 little cities, just like that. That's fine. So now let's look at the way they have this ground. There's a few different ways we could set this up. But what makes the most sense to me, where it's just a flat background, is to go ahead and make the background just include this. I think that makes the most sense. Because it looks like it doesn't change. Well, wait, let's see. It only changes in later levels. But for our purposes, we're probably not going to... We're not going to go beyond just the initial level. Yeah, that's fine. So... I guess we can leave this 1024 by 768. That'll be fine. And what I'll do is just make a background. That's the size of my room. Uncheck the maintain aspect ratio and okay, so there's my image and let's edit it, fill it black. And now we can just sort of get creative. We can make the bottom look pretty much any way we want, as long as it's somewhat close to this. That seems fine. And let's see what this gives us. So we'll make a flat yellow. And then we can just grab the little circular brush tool. And we can do pretty much whatever we want here. We do know we're going to want 3 pretty large humps that kind of quasi resemble where the missiles launch from, right? This can look however you want, honestly. Just the idea is that your missile launches are up on a hill, sort of, and your cities are kind of protected down in the valleys. So now I'm going to switch to the eraser, and this will let me make some little pockets to put. Oh, I don't want the eraser. Whoops. I want black pen. There we go. Yeah, just taking a bite out of it, just like that. Pull that off just a little bit. You can always go back and make this look however you want, but no big deal, however it ends up. Alright, so with that sprite, we can jump back to our playroom. And I'm pretty sure you can just drag and drop this onto the background layer as a sprite. So you see there, I have the cities pretty close to where I intended. Let's jump back in our instance layer and just make sure that this is exactly what we want. I think I'm going to scale these up too. Yeah, I like this. This way it's like, you know, it's like we've got a couple of different size cities. Happy little cities, my friends. Yeah, I like this. I like this distance effect that this is giving me. One thing you can look at here is you see how these are overlapped kind of weird. If you want to change that while you're working in the same instance layer, you can just simply find your object that is too far to the front and drag it up, and you can see how it moves it farther in the back. So just an easy way to manage stuff like that. You know, I didn't have it in the original Missile Command, but I think I want to have. I think I want to have a little road going between my cities just for fun. I think what I'll do is use the tile function just to get a little bit more practice with it. It's a neat tool that Game Maker has. It's especially useful if you're trying to make a game like Zelda or anything where you have a bunch of repetitive things on the ground. Oops. And that one background, and this one is PR road. Sometimes it's good. I mean, as much as it is important to focus on gameplay, sometimes you just have to do some little creative things to get warmed up, especially when you haven't been thinking like a game dev all day. I don't know if you guys realize how long these lines on the road actually are. Usually we are going by them so quickly, we don't realize that they're like 8 feet long. Kind of like with red lights as well. Alright, so now let's go into our tiles. Okay. So now, what we should be able to do is just create a new tile layer. And on our tile layer, we can pick our tile, right? Ah. This little box is always checked by default, but we need it. For some reason it's eluding me what I need to click on to make this tile as I wanted it to. I know I'm just forgetting something silly. Tile properties. Oh, sure. Anyway, I'll come back to that in a minute. So let's think about... Let's think about the little missile launchers. Might actually need to invert the colors on these, or I inadvertently made them yellow. Actually, it's easier if I just change the background at the bottom. I'll just make this a different color. That's fine. We'll make it a night scene instead of a daytime scene. How about that? So let's go ahead and put our little missiles here. Oops. Have that correct layer checked. It wouldn't hurt to make that bigger. Gamdot, thanks for following. I feel like I know who you are. I'm just guessing, given the name. There's only one person I know who would use that. So we have our missile objects, we have some cities. We need a cursor, because the way missile command works is you've got a little cursor, and wherever you click, that's where one of your missiles is going to go to. So let's make one real quick. That should be fine. Okay. And like I've done a few times before, I'm going to load up another game that I worked on previously, just to see how I implemented the cursor last time. This is from a Duck Hunt demo. So with my crosshair here, So I just have it jump to wherever your mouse is. I don't know if the create event is entirely necessary, but we can try it with both as is. Should be fine. Mouse X and mouse Y. All right. And you notice I just type mouse, and then there are several built-in variables, so you don't really have to worry about it too much. Okay. And then the step event, and like I've said before, if you're not really sure what the step event is, it just is saying every frame of the game is a new step. So you can just think of it like the game is walking around, basically. And every time left foot drops, right foot drops, left foot drops, right foot drops, etc., it's calculating something new to happen. This is just saying every single time that refreshes, jump to where the mouse is. Oops, don't want that. Mouse, don't want to reverse it like that. Some people like that. I don't know. Some people like the reverse controls, especially in some things like flight simulators, but I never really got used to that personally. Okay, so let's test that really quickly. Make sure that I might have to resize this. Yeah, 1 second. I got to resize this game screen. Currently very big. You can see right now the little how the little missile stations are just automatically running through their animation. We're eventually going to change that so that depending upon which one you have selected, 1, 2, or 3, it will switch to the next frame, and therefore let you visually keep track of how many bullets you have left. Okay. I think I have relative checked. I might have overlooked that. Let me try running it again. That might be what the issue is there. Well, Duck Hunt, let's check back. What did I do differently to you? Oh, I know what it is. I'm so silly. When you create an object, you have to actually put it in the room. The game isn't just going to automatically know that you want this to be here. So what I usually do, and there may be a better way, but what I usually do is just drag it off on the side of the room somewhere. So like with object cursor. And just put it over here. And now it should do what I want it to do. Well, it appeared for a second, and then it went away. Let's turn off the relative position. Cool. So now we have a little cursor, but as you can tell, it's sort of off-center. And that's just because the default pointer I'm using. So what we can do here is we can change the way we can change the origin of the cursor, essentially. And we do that by going into the sprite. And we're going to change it so the collision mask is right in the center. Because originally it was up here, right? And I think that's what's causing the origin of this to be kind of screwy. So let's change it to middle center. And then let's load it one more time. Now, there's probably a way to change it such that your cursor itself changes, but for our purposes, we're not really going to get into that too much. I think this will achieve what we want it to do. So we have a cursor. We have our missiles. And I think what we want to do is make it where let's think about this. Let's get these notes going. Excuse me for just a second. Oh, man. Sorry about that. Thanks, Diver. Thanks for stopping by, man. If you're not asleep in about 3 hours, I might have something interesting going on. But barring that, again, yeah, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you around. Okay, the 3 missile stations. And we want it so... we want it to load with the animation stops, right? The animation speed of 0. And with each press, with each shot, change an image frame. Okay. And let's... I think in the game they have it where if you get down to 2 bullets, it says you're low. 3. So if only 3 bullets left, low. If no bullets left, out. So with the way we have our image set up, we can say, we'd want to say if the image frame is 11, then don't fire anymore. And this one would be if the image frame is 8, yeah, 8 or more, then show low. And it's kind of tricky to load it with an animation speed of 0, because I've noticed in GameMaker, if you try to create something with an animation speed of 0, then it tries to keep it from moving at all. It won't want to show pretty much anything. So that's just something to keep in mind. These are pretty much identical. I feel like that's kind of hard for you guys to see. I'll have to fix that at some point. So let's look at these little projectiles. They're very, very tiny. It's pretty much just 1 pixel. That's very tiny. Okay. So I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. One thing that jumps out to me is I can say that this first little missile station can be like if yeah, like if you push 1. Yeah, so this will be if you push the number 1. And this one will be if you push the number 2. Just trying to make this a little easier for you to read. It's not too bad. It's kind of squished for some reason. I guess that's just the way it looks. So if you push 2, then it does that. If you push 3... Okay. Let's jump into Missile Base 1, and we can say, you push... I won't do it on the keypad. Say if you push 1, then we'll do something, right? Push 1. And on this one, push 2. And this one, if you push 3, yep. 1, 2, and 3. And I'll go ahead and jump into city event. Just to see what I've got here. We'll probably need to come back later and cause something about the game to end if one of the falling objects hits the city. But for now, we just need to make a very, very tiny little sprite. And this is just going to represent a missile. Well, I guess I could just call it... Yeah, I'm going to rename this other one. I'm going to call this one Missile Station, or Missile Base. Yeah, that's what you want to try to keep some consistency between your sprites and your objects if you can. And this one will be Missile. Okay. Edit the image. Okay. That might even be too tiny. Maybe. See where it's going. It's like it's not showing up for me. Just gonna look at the full one for a second. Interesting. For some reason it's not refreshing over here. So it might just be a bug in GameMaker. Let's try recreating that. Yeah, I think that was just a strange little bug in GameMaker. Okay, so we want this to be, if we press 1, then we want a missile, right? We want a missile to fire to the location of wherever our cursor is. So we do that by saying those are never good words to read. Does become unstable. Please save changes and exit. But this has happened to me a few times before. It says fatal error. And then it's able to stay alive kind of like a zombie. And in 3 or 4 minutes, everything's back to normal again. So I don't know what causes it, but generally speaking, you can ignore it. So anyway. What we want to do when you push 1 is we want you to create an instance of object missile, and we want it to be right above our missile station. So let's do it like this. Since we want it to be right above, we will do a negative Y value, which just means go up. And if that's creating the instance right above it, what we can do is go into our object missile, and we can say, as soon as you're created, we want you to move yeah. I was having to think this through because I'm wanting it to move towards wherever the cursor is when I click, right? So the only thing I wasn't sure about was if it would cause kind of a homing missile effect if I wasn't careful. But we'll see. And we need to see how fast we want it to move. And for this one, I'm not really sure. So I'm just going to set it at 8 for now. And we can see what that looks like. So let's go into our other one. And we're just going to copy the same logic. Which is very simply just saying, when we look in our city, we're wanting this to create a little missile about 1 pixel above, and then wherever our cursor is, we want a missile launched in its direction. So hopefully this won't break, but we'll see how it works out. All right. Let's test this out. So there's one, right? And it's not homing, so that's good. Okay. Could just give people unlimited missiles. That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it? So that's 1, 2, and 3. And the point direction is exactly what we want it to be. That's cool. So create. And let me think here. Because I kind of want it to destroy when it gets to that location. So let's see what happens if I say set the point direction. I'll have to think this one through. I'll have to think this one through for sure. I'll probably have to store it in some kind of variable. Because I think if I just made it destroy instance, then it's just going to disappear as soon as it's created. So that really won't work. We'll have to think about that one. All right, let's look at the game a little bit more. So I guess we can make some enemies here. So if we make another little enemy missile, and we'll just make this one red. And we'll make an object. So for the enemy missiles, we want them to try to hit cities or missile bases, things like that. So as soon as they are created, we want them to go I'm sort of tempted to use random direction, but I don't think that will be specific enough. But I'm gonna try it anyway. I think just for demonstration purposes, I think that this will work. So move in a random direction. And we'll have them move a little bit slower. That way our missiles, our player missiles, can catch up. Make it 6. So another thing we can do, just given the way these missiles come in, just looking to see where they appear. Yeah, they sort of appear at the top, kind of like Tetris. And if you look at it, you can tell that they've actually programmed it to go straight towards either a specific city or a specific missile. So it might actually make more sense to not use random, but instead, let's see. I think the most elegant way to do this. Because obviously what you could do, I mean, it would be kind of silly, but you could just have a bunch of different instances of missiles up here. You sort of get where I'm going with this. This might actually be the easiest way to make this work. Because what you can do is you have these objects, right? And if you drag them into the game room, you can then go into each specific instance, and GameMaker will let you change the creation code just for the specific instance. So it's kind of like you're automatically creating a parent class. So this might actually be what I do here. It's certainly not always the best way, but for a simple game, I think we'll be okay doing it this way. So we'll just put this here, right? And in the parent, essentially, I'm making the speed be 6. And then what I'm going to do is go to each of the little individual ones, and I'm going to give them each their own special little goal. So I'm going to say, I want you to move towards zoom out just a little bit. So we can say, I want you to move towards that missile base. So we can just say 513, 671. And we can do something for this one. You know, 300, 665. Well, no, that it looks better if it's crossing somewhat. That's kind of the style of this game. And there's all kinds of other fancy ways you could do this, but again, this is just When you're just trying to make something that resembles the game. And you notice I'm not even using gravity or anything like that. This is just purely basic movement. So just as a quick test before I go and finish the rest of these dots, I'm just going to go ahead and run this and see what happens. The game starts and the missiles start falling, right? I'm going to slow those down. That's pretty fast. That's the last level. I don't want him to go that quickly. That's pretty rough. I'm going to change it to, let's try changing it to 2 and see what that looks like. So the missiles start falling, right? And then we set up our collision system, which isn't set up yet, but... Okay. So there's our enemy missiles. And now we're going to say, if an enemy missile collides with I forgot to name this city. Object City. It collides with Object City. We'll just say restart the room. Not going to make it too complicated right now. Just trying to indicate that, hey, you messed up. You know, you can't let the enemy missiles hit a city. Another thing I'm going to do is make a parent object for my missile bases. I don't need to. The reason I was doing this is I was going to avoid making multiple collision events. Yeah, hey man. I couldn't get my lighting to work correctly, so I said heck with the green screen for now. I'm gonna have to either move to a different room or something to get that working right. It was making me just look like I was dead at night because of the way the lighting would work. So get to see Casa de Rock Zone for now. Yeah, let's go ahead and delete this parent class because I don't think I need it since I'm only working with 3 missile bases. So we'll say if you collide with this missile base, restart the room. Collide with this one, restart the room. And if you collide with this one, also restart the room. Yeah, you suggesting that has been really, really helpful, especially when it comes to uploading these things to YouTube. Yeah, it's definitely much better. How did D&D go? You didn't mention if you're the DM or anything in particular about it, so I was curious. Yeah, I'll never make any money off of that video. So I'm gonna make this one What I actually need to make is I need to make a big sprite. And this is going to be Sprite Explosion. And the reason I'm doing this one is the actual little missiles aren't what explode. Or it's not that they don't explode, they're not what causes the enemy missile to be removed from the game. It's what they look like later. You can see here, I'll replay this. It's these big animated circles. So let's just try to do that really quickly. That would be, we can just make it like 150. That shouldn't be too huge, I don't think. So we can probably accomplish this. I think we can accomplish it in 10 frames. Say 2.5 frames per second. Oops, put a little dot there. And we can start doing some circles. And here is just where you just kind of do whatever makes sense to you. An amazing, not a DM, a half-elf rogue. Okay. Yeah, I'm really glad people still play that. This last one. I'm gonna make it be an actual circle. And on this one, it doesn't matter if it's pretty. Just trying to make a little silly looking animation. Taking a few more frames than I thought it would, but that's fine. Let's see what that looks like. Probably need to speed up just a little bit. Perfect. Okay. So we need to make it so where when object missile let's go to our notes. We need so if object missile arrives at the point our cursor was when we pushed 1, 2, or 3, then turn into yeah, and change its sprite. Explosion. And another thing to do with things like this is you want to change your collision mask. You notice how this is just a big ugly square? When you have multiple frames, you have to get a little bit more specific. At least I think you should. And change this to instead be precise per frame. And you'll notice what this does is it changes it to be precisely outlined with each one. If you didn't have this, then you could try to manually do it on each one, but it still would be a rectangle. And that's definitely not what we want. So let's change it to precise per frame. And for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it so if the missile collides with an enemy missile, then change the sprite, oh, not the instance. Change the sprite to be sprite explosion, right? And then I'm going to make it where if we collide with object missile to destroy it, right? And this is just very basic, but let's load this up and see what it looks like. So you notice how it collides with it? It's actually kind of small, to be honest. 1063, thanks for following. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you want to follow along, not too far into this, feel free to download Game Maker Studio 2 below, and we can make some games together. So what I'm going to do with this sprite missile is I'm going to make its collision mask a little bit bigger. Because I don't know if you noticed, but it is really hard to hit those little enemy missiles. So let's try making it about this big. Let's see what this looks like. Okay. So you notice there how it looks like the explosion. Oh, cool. Do you have the $99 version, or are you you do mobile games? What's your story? Let's change this. I'm gonna change this mask for the explosion to be in the middle center, so that way it doesn't jump all over the place when I test it. Cool. How long did you work in Game Maker 1? I'm extremely new to this, so you probably know a lot more than me. I mean, that thing's been out since I was like 13 years old, I think. It goes way back. It's interesting that it started out as just a tool to make animation. I think it was called Animo. And then it, over time, turned into a full-fledged game-making engine. Okay. Well, hey man, you've come to the right place. I've literally been doing this since the evening of May 24th, when I decided I am going to make Pong if it kills me. I'm 30 years old. It's time to make a video game, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it tonight. And since then, I've made close to a dozen different demos, and I'm trying to do an old school game every day and just gradually build up. Cool thing about this, with all the drag and drop, don't have to worry about the programming. You can if you want, you can do code if you want, which I'm sure you know, but as long as you're able to think at least a little bit logically, which usually I am, you can put together some pretty neat things. So on the missile base, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the animation speed to be 0. Sorry, I forgot to pull this back up. But the reason I'm doing this is I don't really need it to animate at all. I want it to, when you go into the game, to start off as static, right? And then every time you push a button, I want one of the missiles to disappear. Gotta fix this explosion animation really quickly. I don't like how it starts it starts playing again there. One easy way that I've been attempting to fix stuff like this is I'll just literally put in like a ton of extra blank frames. There's a much better way to do it, but if you're just trying to throw something together really quickly, it'll usually accomplish what you want. That's working kind of how I want it to. So the sprite isn't animating, and what we need to do now is make it so when you push either 1, 2, or 3, depending upon your missile station, we want it to change, and I might have to do this in code actually. Yeah, we're gonna have to change it in code. We want the image frame just making sure I'm thinking through this right. Might be the image index. I think it's the image index. We want the image index to move up by 1. And another thing to think about is we want it to say, hey Siam, welcome back, man. Let me show you what we've got so far with missile command. I might have just broken something because I was putting in the code to change the missile sprites. Look at that, man. So you see how it makes those go away? And if the missiles hit our cities or our missile bases, we go back to the beginning of the game. It could actually be a neat feature where it doesn't like permanently knock you out here. And I've noticed something here. We really don't want to be able to bombard our own cities. I mean, as funny as that might be, we really don't want to bombard cities. So I might have to add in something where, like, let's do that real quick, actually. Let's see, where's my cursor? Yeah. I started this one about 90 minutes ago. 6:15? I think, yeah, 6:15. So we want this to be where if... Okay, there's probably going to be a few if statements here. We want this to be if... And we're thinking about our mouse y-axis here, because it's where our mouse y is. If mouse y is greater than, greater or equal to, because we don't want to be able to shoot cities. That's not what we want. Mouse y has got to be greater than, let's say 560. That seems about what we want. Yeah, so if mouse y is greater than 560, then we can create an instance. Right? Yeah, man, it's amazing what you can do when you just completely focus on it. I usually have a really hard time doing this, but this is just like, game development, I have to do it. And I can't do anything else. Like, I've got laundry and God knows what else I need to be doing, but, you know, whatever. I want to make Missile Command, so I'm making Missile Command. So let's see if this works really quickly. So what I'm testing here is if I push 1, but my mouse is down near my cities, I don't want this to create. Let's see if this does what I want. So I've got it down here. Oh, I did it backwards. I still get that mixed up for some reason. This needs to be if it's less than or equal. There we go. So now I'm pushing 1 down here and it won't fire. Can't shoot my cities. But once I get here, we're totally safe. Okay. And I need to apply the same code to the other ones. You got nowhere. Learning the 2D side-scroller side of UE4. Decided I wanted to learn blueprints for this one. Now, when you say you got nowhere, care to elaborate somewhat? Right now I'm just pasting these into the different missile command areas. Create an instance. And I need another if statement here that says if image index is less than, and how many do I have? Yeah, if it's less than 11. Okay, so if image index is less than 11. Cool. Yeah, I am actually, before I start getting any more game engines, I'm going to have to get another hard drive. Because I currently have 2, but they are completely, well, nearly completely full. And I'm at the point now that reminds me of being like in like 1993, where if I want to play a game, I have to install a game I already have on the computer. So it's more of learning blueprints and a lot of research. Yeah, definitely. Hey, all you can do is just jump in and screw up until it makes sense. Index is less than 11. This should work. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. So now I can't shoot my cities with any of them, and if I run, oh, okay, so that one's not working. I'll have to check that one. That's resetting. Okay, so there's something I've got that's a little off with that. If image index is less than let's try changing this to 10 and see if it does anything. Oh wait, actually. Actually, this needs to be, I think this needs to be down lower. So it needs to be more like if, yeah, if image index is less than 11, then assign variable, else, I'm just kind of guessing here, then I'll say else image index is equal to 11. That seems right. We'll see. So now I'm just going to go and put all this into my other missile stations. Copying and pasting it. Yeah, I did. Let me pull up the little buddy for you really quickly after I test this image index. Yeah, I need to figure out what's causing that. Let's pull up Frogger. Okay, so this is what I made last night. Just a silly little Frogger clone. And the way that this is set up is, let me resize it. It's set up so you try to make it to the end of the map 5 times. If you make it to the end of the map 5 times, then you win the game. So here's what it looks like. So I made a little animated frog. He's looking to the left, he's looking to the right. Got some little trucks here. Animate a little bit of smoke coming out of the top of them. I have a road tile set. And the way it works is he can go on the road, he can go on the bridges, just fine. Can't go in the water though, he'll drown. And also, he can't get hit by a truck. He'll get squished. Don't want that. But I also made it where if you push spacebar, he has a special move now where he can double jump. How about that? And if you make it to the end of the map, then it calculates your score variable to be 1, 2. If you die, it resets it back to 0. Just like the old school hard games. There's no save game here. And if you make it to the end 5 times, then you win. Your little froggy family is happy that you did such an excellent job. And the Easter egg is I just left the movement commands in. So you can move them around all at once. Yeah, that's what I did last night. So now the question is, why do the little missile bases do that? Thanks, glad you liked it. I know it's extremely basic, but again, the point with all this is to just figure out how to do it. You just sit down and say, you know what, I'm gonna make whatever I can, and hopefully you learn something from it. You know what I could do? Instead of just taking away the player's instead of taking away everything, I could just put like a small timer, like a reload timer that plays the image backwards. I don't know. There's all kinds of different things you could do with this. Let's go ahead and give these guys a job first, because right now I just have a few of them actually doing anything. And I mentioned it earlier, but the way I have this set up is a very basic super manual configuration. If you wanted it to be something different, you could use something like what I did in my my Tetris game a couple days ago. But for now, I'm just having these guys spawn, and they've already got a target. There's no randomization. They just know exactly where they're going.
I am who I say I am.
957, 673. What I'll probably need to do after this is set it up where, like in the original missile command, I'll pull this back up again. Every time you shoot and every time an enemy missile falls, you see there's these lines that follow them, right? Yeah, so What would be the best way to do that? Well, I don't know yet. Let's just draw these last three really quickly. I guess we could have one that misses. Like, they're not perfect. We can have one that just goes in the middle of nowhere. Okay.
Inhale and
Just one.
exhale.
All right. So let's see what that looks like. Is it? I'm sorry to hear that, man. Do you have any idea what causes it? Let's see, here I'm going to be looking at how I want the line to draw here. Let's see, draw a line. So, oh, that'll do it. Maybe if you just get them to watch the same show, that'll on the same screen, that'll help your bandwidth. Or you could always go in and throttle. You could throttle Netflix quality using the secret settings. I forget how to do it, but there's some combination on your keyboard you press, and you can make it so Netflix looks a little bit uglier. So here, I'm just trying to make it so a line gets drawn from wherever it starts. Is there a draw? It probably already is a draw line function here. Yeah, what am I doing? I'm trying to make this complicated with code. We don't need that. We can say draw a line from where you are This is probably just going to make an immediate line. That's probably not what we want, but... Let's see what this looks like. So this is in this is just in my missile. Have you tried lowering the quality on my stream? I have this setting enabled that makes it so there's less lag. But for people with slower connections, I think it causes too much buffering. I might have to play with turning that setting off. That would probably help you a little bit. But either way, everything's recorded, and this will go up on YouTube as well if you prefer YouTube at some point. That color. Alright, this is probably going to look nuts, but let's see what happens. Well, it's not drawing a line for some reason. I might actually have to put this within a draw event. What would be the best way to do this? I'm gonna say draw a line. Color. There's some lines. This looks like spaghetti meatball wars. Look at that. See, Riot Games, you thought you could create the spaghetti, but look at that. This is how you make the real stuff right here. Alright, so but in all seriousness, let's see how in the world. Let me show you guys what I see. I forgot to resize this screen for my Frogger game. I was trying to draw some lines. But it's not tracking the way I intended for it to. Love it. So, might be the relative position thing. Let's try turning off relative position for the mouse. That's something. Okay. I feel like Goku summoning the Spirit Bomb here. Looks kind of I don't know, this actually seems like a kind of an interesting way to do some 3D perspective. It's pretty cool. Oh, let's try changing it the other way around. So we don't want it relative to the mouse. Oh, no, let's try relative to the mouse, but not to the origin of the missile. Wait, so now it's just going from 0. Okay, yeah, that's not what we want. It does need to be relative. Maybe it just all needs to be related. No, that's what I had before, and that's what made the spaghetti. I don't want that. Okay, so we don't want that. I do think we want a line, though. It's just a matter of where we want it to draw from. We want it to draw from Y. Interesting. Okay. So we want it to start at the position of the missile. So what we might need to do here is set variables for where the missile starts. So let's look through some of our options here, right? Make it. We want. Let's just look through the list and see what we can find. Assign a variable. So we want this value to be something about the location of where this little guy is when we start, as soon as he's created. Let me look up something 1 second. Okay. Should look at this one more time and see what it's doing. So it's coming from the origin. Yeah, I don't want that. What I was thinking of doing is in the step event. Maybe it's coordinates. Let's look at the old user manual. Align. Yeah, in this one exclusively, so far I've been able to get it to do what I wanted with drag and drop. But I'm thinking to make the lines draw the way I want it to. I think to make the lines start down here and then go up the way I want, I'll have to, I'll probably have to code some kind of a variable that updates. I think. Unless I can find something that tells me otherwise. Your RPG's a 2D RPG? Okay. Does RPG Maker use the same kind of structure with rooms and all that? So let's think about this. Okay, so it looks like what we need to do, just for RPGs, when you say they're built differently, is it like a linear creator? How does it work exactly? Draw begin. Draw end. I think this is how I want this to work. That definitely helps. Yeah, that takes a lot of little minutia out of it for sure. Oh, so you were you interested in doing something for console as well? Custom draw event. Gotcha. Well, let's look back in here at the draw end event. I guess we can say. I wonder if this is saying this is when we want the drawing to end, or this is what we want to happen when the drawing ends. The draw begins. As we can say, draw begins. You can say like if no, we don't need, we can just say if it exists. Draw begins if object missile exists. And draw ends. I think we can do it this way. Draw ends when it doesn't exist. Check if no one does not exist. Check if object missile does not exist. Sometimes you just have to play it and see what happens. It's still going from the origin, whoops. We want it to go from... I may just end up not using the draw event. I'm not sure if it's the best way to use it. Hmm. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. Sorry, guys. Accidentally tabbed onto the follow thing. Oops. So, what would be the best way to make these little lines appear? Something to do with how can we make it follow the location? Is it X, like layer X and layer Y? Might be instance, like instance layer. So what if we just made it, you make it where when this is created, you could say, enemy missile X start. And we could grab the instance position. Maybe it would be better to do this in a code. Try not to make this too scary. And say equal to, say, instance position. And this would be object enemy missile, I think. Enemy missile position. want it to do we want it to draw a line from where the enemy missile position is to where it is going. Follow it. Think about this one. This one's not something I've done before. I'm just doing some googling here. This one actually seems kind of tricky. From what I'm reading, it's like you want to draw a line. You can draw one line, but if you want to draw multiple, then it's got to keep track of it in an array and. Not sure if we want to get into arrays. What if... Let's see if Game Maker 2 still has this functionality. Okay. So what this should do is set the color to red and should then draw it for us. Now I might need to put this in the draw event, but let's see what this looks like. Yeah, it probably needs to be in the draw event. What is this song? Okay, so let's go into the draw event. Okay. Let's see if that draws anything for us. Hey, how about that? But if you notice, it's kind of like it's gotten rid of our sprites. So what we want this to do instead let's try making it draw itself as well. If we make a missile draw itself, then that should keep it in the screen. It should. see. Oh. So I might need to have draw self in here. We're close. We're close. Very, very close. But you notice how it's up kind of in a screwy location? I'm going to change this to be right there. So now let's take a look at it and see. Okay, so now we want to do something similar with the missiles that we are shooting. So in the draw event, we're just gonna grab these two things. And change this color to yellow. Let's see what this looks like. So here again, we've got to change our little sprite. So another thing I've noticed is I've got to make it so my little missiles destroy. I want to see how this is behaving. The line keeps going. Okay. Yeah, the line keeps going because I don't have it changing instances. So what we can do in a case like this, I didn't want to do this originally. We can just create an instance of the explosion. Yeah, that's fine. And instead of changing the sprite, we'll just have this change to a completely different instance. Let's look at it. But another thing I think I want to do just to clean this up a little bit This is some dirty code, but I'm gonna make it where yeah, why not? Object boundary. Yeah, that's fine. This isn't actually going to be on the screen. This is just going to be something I want to put in to make our missiles disappear if they don't hit anything. Now in the actual missile command, it worked differently. It would just go to the point where your mouse was on the screen and then explode. But I think it's fine for this to work the way I'm doing it. Alright. So I'm just going to hold Alt and then just, oops. I'm going to hold Alt and just paint a line of these. Whoops. There's probably a better way to do this. But this is what makes me happy right now, so that's how I'm doing it. And I'm gonna make it where if my missile runs into object boundary, I want it to go away. Just to see if it cleans it up a little bit. I'm gonna slow the missiles down too, the enemy missiles. It's still, I mean, it's going really slow, but it's still just a little too fast. I'll make this more lenient too. Yep. That's weird. It's making it where I can't destroy that one. Interesting. Oh, I need to. That's what it is. I need to change it. I didn't update the sprite. I think this is closer to how the actual game worked. Where it wasn't your missile, it was the explosion. I'm gonna make this stay on the screen. I don't like it moving like that. Got a little bit of fireworks going on, I guess, there. for this one, I want it to be when animation ends, destroy yourself. Okay. Alright, let's do a quick little easy break and get a title screen. And I usually make an object out of my title screen because it lets me do things like push enter to start whatever you want to do. Just don't want to edit, I want to import. N24 by 768. Let's resize it. That's not quite black. Grab that color. Yeah, that's fine. I'll just stretch it out all ugly. Oops, 1025. There we go. How about that? Let's throw some text on it. Okay, so room title screen, zoom it out, throw our object in here, we'll change our object to be add event, and if we push space, go to room play. And we'll go to our enemy, not the enemy missiles. I'll make one more room. Room win. And we can do Trying to think of the best place to put this. We can try it here. What I'm going to do here is put in a step event so that if there are no instances left of the little enemy missiles, then it'll take you to the next room and it'll tell you won the game. So what we want to do is say step, and we're going to check and see. We're going to say if no instance of enemy missile exists, right? No instance of enemy missile exists. And hopefully this won't cause a bug. I don't think it will with the way I've got some other things set up. If instance exists, then I want you to go to room win. And in room win, I'll just do what I was doing with Frogger. Might need to redraw that just a little bit. Wow, you win. Alright, let's play test it. Oh, whoops. I always forget that. You gotta have your rooms in the right order. So we gotta have title screen there. They don't all have to be in the right order, but you at least have to have your first screen where it needs to be. So we start off on our missile command screen, press space to start, you push space. Wow. I guess I drew you win too far down. Oh no, that's not working because I didn't put the I didn't do my cursor objects. Because it can't be both. Whoops. Yeah, it can't be both of those. And normally on this you would do something like, you could do a graphical user interface. I'm not going to get too in depth with that though. Wow. You... You... Wow, you win. Okay. Should work now. Oh yeah, there's a semi-functioning version of Missile Command. Some changes, some improvements you could make are you could make it so no infinite ammo actually runs out when you fire all 10 bullets. A score system adds a score when you destroy an enemy missile. You could have like a game over screen when you when an enemy missile hits a city. You can have the low ammo indicator. Yeah, I already mentioned that earlier. The low or out ammo indicator. What else? A few different things. But I think that's good for now. So not bad for about 2.5 hours. And hope you guys learned something. Be sure to follow if you're still hanging around and haven't yet done so. If you have any questions, ideas for the next game, any number of things, feel free to reach out to me. And I'm going to try to be on around, I'm going to shoot for 8 p.m. tomorrow. Do another 3 to 4 hours. And yeah, thanks for watching. Missile Command. What a game.